All right, we're going to talk a little bit about fishing on a budget. I'm a little bit old school with a lot of stuff, so I want to tell you some tips and a few stories that might help if you're kind of have a tight budget, you want to fish tournaments, or if you're in high school and you're wanting to get in some serious tournaments, or if you're even a parent that's got a kid in high school wanting to fish tournaments, maybe some of this information will help. We'll talk about rods, reels, line, electronics, and boats. We'll talk about a little bit of all those real quick. But starting with rods, you know, first thing I want to say is there's a lot of equipment, rods, reels, all that stuff that does have a specific use for specific baits, line, water, all that for sure. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand that. But you watch a lot of TV and a lot of videos, you see everybody talking about you got to have a 7-foot rod for this, a 7.3 for that, a 7.4 for that. Man, when I was younger, it was I need that 75% discount rod. Growing up, I think I had one rod for the longest time. And then I think when I was 10, somebody I didn't even know gave me a bait caster, which I still have and fish with today. But I took that bait caster and I learned how to fish every lure possible with it. I just adjusted to make it work for what I needed it to do. And I think if you're going to get one rod, I would get something between 6'10 and 7'3, maybe 7'4, medium heavy. Something that you're comfortable with, and you can get some really good rods out there from 65 to 125 bucks. That one rod, you can do just about anything you want with it. The only thing I'd say you probably couldn't do with a medium heavy rod or a medium action rod is don't throw it on monofilament and try to frog fish. I don't care how hard you swing, that's going to be a tough one. But medium heavy rod, you can just about do whatever you want bass fishing with it. You can have 2 or 3 of those instead of having to spend a bunch of money and have 8 or 10 different rods for every individual lure. Get a couple medium heavies. Reels. A lot of different reels, ball bearings, gear ratios, speeds, drags. Just like the rods, there's so many different combinations. Spinning rods, push buttons, spinning reels. I think for a bait caster, you can get some good reels, low budget. Get a 7.3, 7-to-1 gear ratio. Get something that fits good in your hand. Spinning reel, same thing. You can get some good spinning reels out there fairly cheap. Spinning rod, maybe around a 6 foot or something. You know, reels. Two of the most influential fishermen that I've ever known that really taught me a lot growing up. Didn't know each other, but they both fished with push button reels. One of them was a push button Shimano, and the other one was a Zebco 808. And these guys were great fishermen. They fished tournaments on all kinds of different levels with push button reels. I learned a lot from those people. So don't get intimidated by expensive equipment. Lures. There's a million different lures out there. I keep my stuff simple. I fish a lot of tournaments now, but I keep my stuff simple. Baits. Figure out what the fish are eating. Bluegill, shad. Two real popular ones, crawfish. Wherever you're at, they're probably eating those 3. I mean, they might be eating trout or tilapia or shiners, depending on where you're at. But if you go with a bluegill, shad, or crawfish replica, you're pretty good. As far as soft plastics, I keep trick worms and I keep some ribbon tail worms. Black, blue, June bug, something with darker color worm, and then get like a green, watermelon green, pumpkin, something like that. You have those 2 colors, you pretty much cover most bodies of water. Now reds work, pumpkin seed will work good, but if you got some kind of green, some kind of black, blue, June bug, you're gonna be good wherever you go. And I consolidate a lot of my tackle into shad, bluegill, dark blue worm, watermelon. You'll consolidate a lot of space in your boat and a lot of money in your pocket. And you get to line and hooks. Line and hooks are 2 things that I do not skimp on. If you're gonna spend money on anything at all, do it on line and hooks. Those are 2 of the most important things you need to have getting that fish to the boat. As far as a one all-around line, for me, I'd say 12 or 15 pound Trilene big game. You can do a lot of different stuff with that line. But as you get more involved, there's some braid, fluorocarbon's got its specific uses for it. But good hooks and good line, very important. Electronics. You know, it's real easy to look at a lot of these guys out fishing these tournaments that have very expensive rigs loaded with electronics, and I think sometimes people get judged on the quality of the equipment they have. Oh, he didn't have electronics or this and that. He's probably not that good. Definitely not true. I fished the one-man series last year, 96 guys. I didn't have any electronics in my boat then that worked right. I just got a surround sound Humminbird 3 days ago. But when I fished that series, 96 guys, no electronics other than a 7-inch Garmin or a 7-inch Lowrance that was about 15 years old, didn't work right. I finished second place Angler of the Year. So just because some of these people might have fancy equipment and fancy electronics doesn't mean they know how to use it. So don't get intimidated by how much money some people will spend on fishing. You can do very well on a low budget and just fishing your comfort, fishing your confidence. You'll do fine. Same thing with boats. You don't have to have a crazy expensive boat to fish tournaments and to compete. Years and years I fished with some very small old raggedy boats. It's taken me this long to get something decent. Growing up 18, 19, 20 years old, I had a 1970 something Bass Hunter boat, an aluminum boat, wore out. I'd fish saltwater, freshwater, everything with it. And I'd fish these little Wednesday night tournaments on a lake called Lake Conway, Central Florida. And I'd put this boat in the water, and as soon as I put it in the water would be coming in through the rivets and cracks in the bottom of the boat. So I'd run my bailage pump all night long. And I did real well in these tournaments. One night, bailage pump quit working. So I was bailing water out all night. Well, right before the tournament, I pulled up to the dock. I left about 4 or 5 inches of water in the bottom of the boat. I had about 16 pounds, so I took them out of live well and just let them swim around the bottom of the boat. And the guys didn't like it much. They threatened to put some bigger holes in my boat when I came back, but I won that tournament. You don't have to have expensive equipment to do well, to catch fish. You just got to fish your confidence, fish your comfort, and learn to make little adjustments. You might not have the exact right rods you need for a jerk bait or something, but it doesn't mean you can't catch them on it. I mean, that's just me, kind of old school, I think. You take what you got and you use it to your advantage, and you learn how to make those adjustments with those lures, make those adjustments with your rod, your line, whether you're feathering your spool a little bit if you got a really stiff rod and they're pulling. There's little things you can do to make adjustments. And again, going to depth finders again, no electronics doesn't mean you can't read the bottom. Look at the contour maps. Look at the steepness of the shoreline banks, especially if you're in a smaller lake. You might see the shoreline on one side is a lot steeper. It's going to be a lot deeper there. Another thing you can do is throw your bait out there, and you can count it down. Watch your bait sink, your worm. I mean, set it next to the boat, drop it in the water. You can see it's going to sink 1 foot a second or 2 feet a second. Throw it out, and that'll kind of give you an idea on how deep it is. If you're in Florida, just stick your rod in the water, and it'll tell you 4 foot. It's usually not any deeper than 6 foot. So just something you can do without electronics. But anyway, low budget fishing, nothing wrong with it at all. Actually, a little bit in your advantage because a lot of people are going to underestimate you. But I hope some of this helps. Good luck and catch them.